Controlled Chaos with your hosts, Liz and Allie.
I'm Liz, the writer.
And I'm Allie, the publicist.
We are your quintessential 40-something besties who dive headfirst into all things pop culture.
Think motherhood, relationships, hot stories taking over your newsfeed, and of course, the latest gripping true crime mysteries.
This is Controlled Chaos, your much-needed weekly pop culture juice.
Drink up! Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode.
Hello, Controlled Chaos is here.
We're coming in hot.
I'm on my porch.
Real chaotic. Might hear some birds in the background.
I feel chaotic, you guys. I'm in my carport sometimes on my porch. It's just this is it. I can't really get a lot of space to myself. I was just laughing with Allie that now my cat's biting me out here. There's just nowhere where I can be unstimulated. I'm having squat on my porch right now. That should give it all away. But here we are. You know what? The show goes on. We're here. Show goes on no matter what.
We love doing this so much. So wherever we can do it, we'll do it, you know? All right. So we really just wanted to get into like a whole conversation around generational gaps. We've all seen like the Gen Z versus Millennial, versus Gen X, all that stuff on TikTok. And some of it's pretty silly and ridiculous and tech related. Like, how does someone pick up a phone when you're in your 40s versus how you pick up a phone when you're 20s? Who the fuck cares? But I think on a larger scale, we wanted to talk about how it's affecting fashion, how it's affecting beauty, how it's affecting the workforce, and overall like educational related, stuff like college, vocational, trade, all that stuff. So, Liz and I are in this kind of funky place because we're both early 40s. And so we're at the very tip of millennial, I guess, closer to like that Gen X side, right?
Are we technically millennials?
We're old millennials,
right? I think our position. There's this book so I've always wanted to write a book about this. And I just saw this girl wrote a book. It's called Once in a Millennial, and it's pretty much everything I want to write about. But she's our age, and she writes about growing up in this time where we're like Gen X, we're such on this cusp, this border where Allie and I grew up in a time where no social media. Internet was dial-up. That wasn't a huge thing in our lives.
And in general, colleges have gotten way more selective. I know like the admission rates have dropped a lot and it's a lot harder to get into schools now. Even having a safety school is no longer like a thing, like where it's that easy to have a safety school. Like we all had safety schools when we were growing up. So it's just very different than it was a generation ago. And then of course the costs are so much higher. And, people, I think our generation actually are probably the culprit of the ones that have endured so much debt from like all different types of schools, law schools, medical school, all those things, that I think it set the Gen Z and probably the alpha generation up to realize, this is not the path I want to take where I'm in my 40s, still paying off my dental.
And it's just funny how it's all relative, right? Like our parents, the baby boomers, they must think like our time is so strange, and it's like that Clueless quote. What does he say? It's like how I feel about Rolling Stones. My kids will feel about the Nine Inch Nails, which how dated does that seem now? Like it's just that similar where like every generation, like the new one looks so strange and like new and like to us, but to the current generation, it's not. This is their norm. AI is going to be their norm. Social media is.
I think Gen Alpha, which is like our kids that are really young now.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah,
okay.
Gen Alpha is like Gen Zs are all in college and high school right now. Gen Alpha are really young kids right now. They're the ones that are literally like growing up with the AI stuff. Like who knows how that's going to shift and transform.
AI their whole lives. I mean, that's how crazy is that?
We also don't know how it's going to be delegated and regulated and how it's going to work with schools. And right now, everyone's very scared of it, right?
Or what jobs would even look like with them, because AI, it's crazy to think about, like what it's going to be like when our kids even start driving. Self-driving cars might take over by then. Who knows?
And now like self-driving cars are already being tested everywhere, and you can obviously buy them via Tesla, et cetera. But like think about like flying cars. That was like such a foreign concept, in movies we'd watch, and I feel like that's like 20, 30 years away. I don't know how that'll be regulated in the sky, but.
I mean, I was just in Miami recently, and all over downtown Miami, I saw robot delivery everywhere. Just like, I mean, it's just Rosie delivering food. I mean, the Jetsons was really not very far-fetched.
No, and then you think about too, drones are now becoming a thing when it comes to like, not just like military and war-related.
Delivery, they deliver too.
Delivery.
It's amazing.
Deliver anything. I mean, it's so easy because you're going through the sky, you don't have to deal with traffic. Really bizarre. And I also found it interesting too that Biden is just signed like a bill, and he's trying to basically like open up thousands of new jobs in trade, which is a sign of the generation, I guess it's generation Gen Z, the Zoomers, and probably Gen Alpha. They get to this place in high school and they're already working and they're like, entrepreneurial skills, get a job in a trade of some sort. You're not needing to go to college for that. You go to a vocational school, or the job that you're interested in will bring you on board, pay for your training, and then you get $100,000, starting salary there. So a lot of people are going that route, getting their hands dirty.
It kind of makes sense too, because like I feel like trade jobs, like if you, and doesn't that make sense? Because like what we're saying now, college degree, like that broad degree, it's really about your experience. So I mean, I always thought if you went to college for 2 years, figured out what you wanted, went to go work in that field, then came back and finished your college degree in that field would make more sense, which is kind of what this is, trades.
I mean, essentially, our first jobs that we have after college are like vocational or trade school for us. They're just not, they weren't termed in that way. And now there's been I read online that there has been a 16% increase from the last year, from 2022 to 2023, in vocational focused community colleges, which to me means they call it the tool belt generation. This whole like thought process around like, like dirty, getting your hands dirty, fixing, welding, building, like, right?
That's really interesting because it was just blue, that whole blue collar
Yep.
concept, I think is
Well,
going
you
to
know what
change a
else it
lot.
reflects on? It reflects on, so when we got into like high school, college, and past that, and then like the internet, boom, 2000 bubble burst, and then like everything was online, stores online. I prefer shopping online for the most part. I'm sure you do most of your shopping online too.
I do. I like stores, but the reason I don't like stores, I prefer shopping in stores, but the stores don't carry anything anymore. Everything
Right.
goods
It's
online.
like a very small amount, right?
It's forced me to go online, but I personally I like to see an item. I like to touch it. I like to see that. I don't love shopping online, but that's just what it is now.
Well, no, but apparently Gen Z, the Zoomers, prefer shopping in stores. So we're seeing this like backward
I do
loop of
too.
like technology is almost getting like exhausted. And like people are wanting to go back to like the old school, like I want to touch, I want to feel.
Yeah, I want that back. I want to shop in a store. I want to see the clothing. I want to see the vanity I'm buying for my. I want to see things and touch them. You don't see the quality.
What do you think about too that it said that Gen Z is more comfortable expressing their emotions than millennials like us? Do you feel like do you see that? Like imagine you go to a store and like someone brings you a size that's wrong. Are you more interested in like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, thank you." What?
Am I gonna just start bawling? I'm like, oh, I can't believe you think I'm a
Or are you
size
gonna like
12.
basically
Get out
be
of
like,
here.
"Here's the deal. This is why I don't like this. It's not made from an environment." Or are you gonna just be like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. You can take this back. Oh, it just wasn't what I was looking for." Because I feel like I err on the side of being sorry all the time, but I feel like Gen Zers are more like, "The food that you sent me, it's just not fitting what I was looking for," and they like go into like description of what they really want.
Oh my gosh, I don't know if I could handle that at all. No, I mean they're more
Well,
sensitive and
and it's funny too
they
because
want to talk their feelings out. No, I was just saying, it sounds like they're very sensitive. They want to talk about like why that delivery was wrong for them, and I'm not saying that's bad. It's nice to be like in touch with things, but let's not go overboard.
agreed. Let's not go overboard. It also says that millennials tend to value a more healthy work-life balance, while Gen Z tends to be more career-driven and financially motivated. Would have been maybe the other way
I love a work life
around.
balance.
Me too.
I love a work life balance. I think I do. I mean, there's a boundary there too. Work life balance doesn't mean being lazy and entitled, which I think sometimes that generation can be. They think they're entitled to get certain jobs, whereas like the more that generation evolves, like our parents, for instance, with them it was very like black and white. You work hard, you work hard, you get your job, get your paycheck. I mean, it was just my dad never understood what I did. Like when I hopped jobs a lot, he's like, "How are you not in?" They're in the same jobs for years and years and years. Okay, but they work hard, they do things. And I think you and me, we're still in that generation, the old millennials, where like that was instilled in us. And you work hard and you get your job. You're not really lazy. But like I think later as I've gotten older, especially now with children, work life balance is really important. But there has to be that. What's the next level after that? Like you don't want to go so far where I don't want to work at all. I mean, it's complicated because I really do want to like instill in my children like what my dad used to tell me, although I don't know how much you live by this, but like work to live. Don't live to work. Do your work to provide your life, but don't make your whole life work
Right.
because there's so much more.
I read somewhere that like millennials are in this weird place in the workplace where like they'll have an older boss that's more in like the Gen X space that needs help like understanding some tech stuff, but then they have people under them that are Gen Z that are so tech savvy that they're being schooled. So the millennials are in this like weird place of like we know some stuff to teach those that are older than us, but then we're so behind. Like if I talk to an 18-year-old, my mind is blown. I don't know half the things they're talking about.
That's okay. That's how I feel. Okay. Truth time. I do social media for a lot of people. I really honestly I hope none of my people I work for, I really shouldn't. I'm not like I'm old school. Like I don't know all the tricks anymore. I don't even know TikTok. Like I don't know any of the new stuff. Like an
It's
18-year-old should be
totally.
running social media now. They're the pros. They're the pros. I'm like in my early 40s. I'm like, put a post on Instagram with the caption, make it clever. I'm a writer at my heart. So I think that that makes my captions clever and my content clever. But as far as someone who's going to make you just a kick ass reel and a video and a TikTok, you're like you said, those are the teenagers. Those are the 18, 19-year-olds. That's the people who know how to do this.
Yep, I
It's like I'm
agree.
too
It's
old to do my
crazy. It's
job.
it's really like this shift that centers around technology. COVID played a big role with like remote working and a lot of kids coming out of high school and college and that Gen Z demo that are now like trying to figure out their way. I almost feel like 20 somethings are going to almost have like midlife crises of like I was, told to do this one way growing up with a millennial parent, but now things are so different as a Gen Zer and now I'm seeing Gen Alpha. It's like
I think that it's gonna be a rough road for that. I agree with you. There's a lot of change, a lot of transition happening. They were taught one method, but another method's coming on so strong, fast and furious that like they're gonna be walking this like it's like a contradiction in their whole life, you know?
What do you think about our generation, millennials? I've heard this so many times that we come across as entitled.
Yeah, I know. It's funny that you were saying that because I was saying that about another generation, but I think I meant like young millennials. I actually think that's true, and I think social media had a lot of play on that. It's kind of how everyone's an influencer now. Everyone's a photographer. Everyone's a content creator. Everyone just kind of thinks they've earned these things without actually being it. Because if you have a lot of followers, that's what it means to be popular. I mean, the Kardashians, no offense, have sort of put that into play. And we've talked a little bit about that. I mean, I'm not saying they're without talent. They've made their brands big, but like they've proven that you don't really have to have like a big skill set to be super famous. And now I kind of feel like that's where we're going. And I'll tell you a personal story from me. I'm a writer. I had a literary agent and I had a book I was shopping around for a long time. 10 years ago, I would have had a huge platform. Okay. I mean, if you guys Google me, I've been published a lot. I'm all over the place. I've been writing for years and years. That was a platform back maybe 10 years ago, maybe more. Not anymore. Now, my literary agent, when I had one, was like, well, you need to have this many followers on Instagram. You need to have this. That's the proof of your merit now, of your platform now, which is actually crazy because really it should be how many articles I've had published. And that's why people are entitled in a way, in my opinion. Now you can be a professional writer without even being a writer. You can be these things now if you've got this strong following on social media, which of course that's going to breed and yield entitlement, because it's like you can skip all these chapters to be. And I that it makes me like our older millennials, it makes me a little resentful. I'm like, how are these people publishing books when they're not even writers? Oh, because she's 100,000
Right.
people that watch her stories.
It reminds me of remember the show Black Mirror?
I never saw it, but I know of it.
So it's like one of those, dystopian future sort of shows that takes all these like kind of scary thoughts related to what we go through now and gives you like this. Okay, so one of them is called Nosedive, and it's explores like the effects of social media, like a social media driven society, and how that is connected to people's like values and self-worth. So think about like you get in an Uber, get rated, right? Now think about anything you do. You
Mm-hmm.
go to a store and buy a coffee, you get rated by the barista on like how you talk to them. And the reason I bring this up is because I think we were raised in a generation where like the customer's always right. And like and back to the entitlement.
We were raised in that. We were.
And back to the entitlement,
It
like
is
we
true.
expected out of high school, out of college, we were gonna get a job. Like that's just how it worked. It wasn't really ever thought couldn't get a job, which it is now.
You're right. There was no other
There
way.
was no other way.
You go to college, you get a job. Like you're right. Like the whole it's just so was that way. Get your resumes out, get a job. There
And it
is
wasn't
no
really
other
that hard.
alternative.
I
And
mean,
now
I got a job right out of college. I mean, you did too. Like it wasn't that challenging. Maybe it wasn't the best paying job.
we met at our
We
job
met
out
in
of college.
my first job, yeah. But and this also goes back to Gen Zers. are much more about like if you go to a barista, you're not like the customer's always right. You're like, how is your day going too? They're humans too, right? And so I think that's rubbing off on the millennial generation.
Right.
And I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Totally true.
Yeah, sorry. In this episode, it goes way past like it dictates where you can live, who your friends are, the kind of car you can buy, which is a scary thought. But imagine like technology gets to the point where everything is on a rating system because it can be. Imagine a life like that. I mean, we already have it with restaurants,
No, I don't.
hotels. Why not with people?
And there was something very, I mean, in my opinion, our life's getting more and more complicated the more these things advance. And there's something kind of just easy. I mean, it was only one way, but at least that's sort of like we only knew one choice, and it kind of makes it easier. Now, when you get out of college, there are so, or you even go to college, which again, you don't have to, there's so many choices. Is that part of a problem too? Because for us, like I said, college, job, married, kids. I mean, I'm not saying it's just there was like this path that you just knew you had to take because that's what your parents take. And like now, it's almost like just having too many options. You don't know where to go. Does it make people kind of more ambivalent? Does it make them more like, I don't know where it's overwhelming?
You know, also with social media rising when we were in our, I think I was like 20, what were we like 20 when Facebook came out ish, something 22, maybe somewhere around there.
I was a senior in college, so yeah, it's
Yeah,
like
like
21 or
21,
22.
22. I think I signed up for Facebook when I was about, we were living together actually. I think probably I was like 24. My point is we, our early career phase of like to 35, let's say, which is, you know, when you're really figuring out who you are and what you want to do after you kind of get through the educational aspects of your life. Social media created the influencer, right? And the influencer was all about expressing yourself and could come across a bit entitled, right? Because you now had a platform and you could grow a following.
Yeah.
But what's funny,
And everyone's like, I'm an expert. Everyone's an expert
right?
now. Everyone's an expert. And social media has kind of done that, provided that platform where you can be an expert even when you're not.
So now there's this trend where people are denying influencers, like instead of being an influencer that promotes things, because I think if especially TikTok has become such like a shopping, like just influencer after influencer, like buy this lip gloss, buy this facial cream, they don't even believe in what they're selling anymore.
Use this makeup trial. Use this. It's so, it's
It's
crazy.
completely flooded. It's becoming numbing that now the Gen Z culture, and I think millennials, but more so Gen Zs because they're on social media, I think probably more than we are to some extent, especially certain channels like Snapchat and TikTok. They're starting to get really annoyed with this and distrusting influencers. And now there's like this whole anti-influencer movement happening where the goal is to say what you
I'm
don't
into
like,
that. I'm into
not
that
what you
movement.
like,
It's
because people
gotten
are
way
getting
too
tired of.
saturated. I support that
I know,
movement.
way too
I support
saturated.
that movement because the word influencer doesn't even mean anything to me anymore.
Everyone's an influencer.
Everyone is influenced. Actually, my husband and I just got in a fight about this because he told me I got butthurt about this. Like, well, he was just like, you were influenced to buy that. I'm like, everyone's influenced. Everyone is influenced, whether you see it on Instagram or you see someone doing something. Like, how are you not influenced by anything all day, whether it's an organic way, whether it's online? That's how we find out anything. We see things, whether like a branding. I mean, it started out old school branding advertisements, but yeah, to me, if I see like there's this one girl I follow, you and I know, Carrie and I talk about her all the time, cupcakes and cashmere. Okay, so I
Oh,
admit
yeah. We
he
can talk
puts
about it for
things out there. I'm
years.
like, those shoes are really cute, and but to me, it's almost like she's pointing out things I just didn't. I'm like, oh, I haven't seen those. And in a world where there's so much saturation of things to see, when someone kind of pinpoints and has my style, I don't even really find that to be influence as much as like this person finds things that I like that I don't have time to find myself. But to say that you're not like, Ryan's like, well, I'm not influenced. Yes, you are. Everybody is. Everybody.
Yeah, that reminds me of almost like decision overwhelm where you end up just kind of settling for something because you don't
Yeah.
have the time or the patience to go through 1,000 versions. I
Sift
mean,
through
we have
all the
so
crap.
many. Oh my God, every time I go on Amazon, I do like I try to sort by like ranking bestsellers, and it's like just hundreds of products.
It's too much. You almost need someone to sift through the crap for you. It's too much. I don't have time for it. Like I know, but yes, word influencer is just almost irrelevant because it's overused. Everyone's influenced. To say you're not is completely naive and just not true.
And the last trend I wanted to bring up that I thought was interesting, that I don't know how I feel about, wanted to get your review, is apparently eyeshadow is like really like not a thing anymore. Like Gen Zers and like
I
they
don't
think it's like stupid, like old people do that. And now when I put on eyeshadow, like an old person. When was the last time you wore eyeshadow?
I don't really wear it. I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna be really honest right now. I don't wear much. I don't really wear makeup at all anymore. It's very seldom I do. That's probably why I'm wearing these fake glasses all the time because it's like it's the new makeup for me to hide it. But when I do wear makeup, if I do wear eyeshadow, the only things I've and again I was influenced on these are the Mercier caviar sticks because they're really like
Mm,
they're just very subtle and they're so easy to put on and they're not even like really eyeshadow. It's almost like, but yeah, the last time I actually
they're sticks.
dipped a brush and swooped, honestly, years. I don't think I remember the last time I've done mascara, 100%. Like
Eyeliner.
yes, and I love those. What I use all the time now, again, influence, but are those multi-purpose sticks that uses like blush. I can use
Mhm.
eyeshadow, and I love those. Do it with everywhere, but yeah, I don't even remember the last time I've like put a brush in something and swooped it over my lid. That's now that you bring that up, it's really old. It seems old. It seems like an old thing to do.
I'm curious to see what happens to the eyeshadow market over the next 10 years because I'm telling you, this is like a serious trend of like people saying
I
it's like not cool anymore.
I totally believe it. Not until you said it did I just realize I have not actually done that in a really long time, and it seems very old all of a sudden. Like
Right?
caviar sticks, I've definitely done caviar sticks. That's my new eyeshadow, but there it's yeah, I have not like Clinique. I used to love Clinique. I just used to love Clinique when I was younger and put that blue eyeshadows on, sparkly stuff. No, it's so old now.
Side note
We're
of
old.
businesses that were hot when we were young, like Express just filed for bankruptcy, so like they're going down. So it's we're gonna start seeing all our old brands.
God, my husband, by the way, is like a secret Express lover. He loves Express. No, I don't like it, and they have an awful return policy. I bought him all the stuff for Christmas, none of it fit him. They wouldn't let me
Why were
return
you
it
feeding the
online. I'm so done
why
with
were you
them.
feeding the addiction?
I was like, I don't know. I hate it. I'm like, who are you? Like, I don't even, that's like a whole, I don't understand you guys. Like, my husband on one end is like this, like, Cuban, like, knuckle dragging male. And then there's like this metro hipster side that I'm just like, you are such a contradiction. I don't know. Like, why do you like Express? I just, no,
Well, you
please
better make a
no.
big shopping mall, Express, because like,
I don't like them. I'm glad they're going
they're
under.
gonna be
I don't like
closing
them at
soon.
all.
By the way, I love the whole word haul. I do like hauls. Like I'll have friends like go on to like a secondhand like a shopping spree, and then I'm like, send me your. I want to see your haul video. Like send me.
Paul and here's another word that has been like the new generation word, dupe. Dupe is the new knockoff. Knockoff was our phrase back in the day. Back when you went to like New York on Canal Street, this is before online, and bought like your knockoff handbags and wallets. Now, dupe, which is such a classier
It
word.
is
I love dupe.
Amazon dupes. Like Amazon dupes of like Lululemon
Yeah, I feel like
bags.
I hear the word that I see that content all the time. Like, here's a dupe for this or dupe for that. And like I'm like, that is really evolved because just I mean, you remember those days? Like, oh, let's go to Canal Street and go on behind some sketchy tent and get like a bag,
Of
a Fendi
course.
bag. I don't know, whatever. And now it's like, I mean, I wonder if that's even a thing anymore. People even do that. I mean, that was such a thing when we were younger, and now it's all dupes.
People
But
do still
it's a
do
shame.
it, but look, the some of the most common dupe brands now are Nike, Lululemon, Adidas,
Skims.
Skims.
Tried myself recently was I love Supergoop sunscreen, and Trader Joe's apparently has this one that's like just like
The
their
gel?
yes, it's just like their unseen sunscreen. It's amazing, you guys. It is literally the same. It's the same consistency, and it's like what, $5? I mean, like oh, and like the other dupe from there, you guys. That okay, so I actually got a little small that bum Brazilian bum cream.
Oh,
You know
yeah.
how that stuff's like crazy expensive. I got like a sample of it. Smells amazing.
Mhm.
Trader Joe's has that amazing dupe that only comes out seasonally though. That's the problem. It's like that it's not their cocoa butter. It's like that other one that smells like it's like acai peach one that like once it comes out people just go nuts and buy it all. Smells exactly like it. It's an oil and a lotion. And
Ooh.
it smells exactly like Brazilian bum cream and it's again $4.99. So the whole dupe evolution, I'm here for it. I kind of like it. I mean, who doesn't want to save money on something like that?
It's called, oh, I see it right here, Brazil Nut Body Butter Review. Brazil
Yes,
Nut
that's it, Brazil nut butter, and it only comes out for, like I'm telling you, they have it, like, 2 months out of the year, and when they do have it, like, people go nuts over it 'cause it smells just like this Brazilian bum pum cream that if you Google that, that shit retails for, like I mean, it's, like, insanely expensive. I got a tiny little thing of it for, like, $20.
It's
It's, like,
worth
this
it.
little thing.
It's worth it.
It's worth it. Yeah. So there are some things that have come along that I like, but yeah, dupe's just so much classier than knockoff.
Have you heard of this one that a lot of Gen Zers are doing? They tape their wrinkles down while they're sleeping.
Yeah, I've heard that. I used to hear about that with your boob gap because you know how people used to say you
Oh,
sleep on your side
yes.
and it makes your boobs squish together. You tape them apart and it makes them not do that. I have heard a little bit about it with wrinkles. There's these wrinkle pads again. Squirrel Emily Schumann at Cupcakes and Cashmere that do that where like you get them from Amazon and they like tape up like this and like it's supposed to keep you. Yeah, I mean
Very
it's just
interesting.
again we're all influenced all the time.
This was our rendition of some generational gaps. We mostly focus on Gen Z and millennials, but there's also a lot of gaps, obviously, between baby boomers and Gen X. And I think the biggest thing that I notice is like Gen Z are like all living at home and are more dependent on their parents. Things are too expensive now. Where we were out like as soon as we could get out, right?
Oh, totally. But we're out as soon as we get out, but, like, that again, kinda like college job, it wasn't an option to stay with it wasn't an option to stay with
Not
my
even a
parents. They're
thought.
like,
It
"Get the
was
hell
like
out of here."
off limits.
Not even a thought. Like, you go to co like, you I came home for, like, 2 months, applied for jobs, like, that's it. Like, you do not stay at home. It was not first of all, I didn't want to. Second of all, it was not a thing that you did. It's a different
For me,
time.
I remember there was almost a feeling of like shame if you were gonna like stay home. Like you like
Oh, there was so much shame, embarrassment, like, you did not want to tell anyone you were living at
no. And
home.
now it's normal.
Now it's normal, but I don't know if that's a good normal. It sounds like it's some codependency stuff there, but yeah, but I'm glad the way that we went through it. I'm glad we got out.
Do you think that
Yeah, it breeds
do you think it's
codependency.
based on how the person was raised by their parent and that parenting style is so different from for instance, how we're parenting our kids versus how we were parented? Like we might almost be creating codependency because we're more conscious parenting. We're more about sensitivities and letting the parent lead, the kid lead, kid led, you know?
I mean, I try and say I'm like that, but I'm gonna end up turning into my mom, so I mean, I probably will be.
I won't ever say that because I don't want my mom to hear me say that. If you're listening, mom, I don't
My
want to turn
mom
into you. I'm going to
mom
turn into you.
I'm gonna turn into you, mom. I mean, up in heaven, but I don't even really mind that. She's a great mom. But yeah, when I would scream, she'd like throw me in the shower and just like put me under the shower. Like in League of Their Own. Remember how like Tom Hanks like dumps Kit under the shower? That's what my mom would do to me. She's like, okay, and just spray. I don't know if that would be frowned upon now, but it kind of like snapped me out of it. I don't know. Like it wasn't gentle parenting. Let's
You
just
don't
say.
want you wanna have
But you're
time.
right.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want your kid to just be
But
like,
you're
"No,
not
everything
wrong.
hurts. Don't touch me. I'm so sensitive."
No, you're totally right. I want to be like we talked about that book. I want to be gentle parenting, but I don't want to breed a codependent child either. So there's going to have to be a little bit of old school and new school come
Yes.
together. My life growing up was you make good grades, but make it in my house growing up, making good grades was there was no you had to. You had to make good grades. Like I mean, my parents were obsessed with me doing well in school, and like and then I remember getting like in college, my mom was like, "Yeah, grades don't even matter," and I was like, "I'm sorry, you just undid my entire foundation." Like all I heard about, like if I got a B, it was like a big deal, and like that's probably not the case anymore. I mean, it was just a
No,
different thought in
it
our
is the
day. Like,
case.
you made good grades, you went to school, you got a job. These were your choices, your only
But I feel like
choices,
now,
and that's not
Fold,
the case.
it's worse because it's so competitive. So if you are in that world and mindset of and trajectory of still having your kid go to college, it is like and they give so much more homework now than they used to. It's insane.
Yeah, yeah, that is true. I've heard that.
Yeah.
I've heard that. How am I going to help my kids with my homework? I don't remember how to do any of
I'm
that stuff.
like, do I have to have my child grow up and I actually have to put them in school and like learn with them because that's going to suck. I don't want that to happen.
I know. It's like we're going to be in school all over again. It's going to be so
It's a
different.
whole learning. Okay, we're way over our time
Well,
here.
we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
We're way over our time. Hope y'all enjoyed this discussion. And you know, I'm tired of reading like news headlines and like the things like entitlement and all the fuck all that. Like, let's talk real talk, right? Like, what's really going on with these gaps? How are we really different from one generation to the next? How is technology playing a role in that? It's obviously going to play a role in that big time. We're going to see way more to come. So, thanks for sticking with us, and we'll talk to you next time on.
Control chaos. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.